Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dollpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Georgette Taylor. And as always, I am so excited that you're joining me today. And also, before we start the show, I want to say thank you guys so much for being patient for me coming back. I feel so much better, and I really appreciate all the messages that I received. So thank you again so much for being with me here on the Dollpreneur podcast. I am excited to talk to our guest today. She has such beautiful work, and I can't wait for you to find out about her story and about her work as well. So, my guest today is Tina Vincent. She is an award winning Zimbabwean artist, best known for her captivating women of color paper mache sculptures. And they are just so fabulous. I can't wait till you get to see them. Each piece is celebrating the powerful beauty and meaningful relationships found within communities of women. And not only does she do paper mache sculptures, she's also a mixed media collage artist as well. She does portraits and quilts. And so I'm just excited to have her on the show. How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm excited for people to get to know you and to learn everything that you do about being an artist. So, but I know every artist really has a beautiful origin story, and you just take us back to the very first moment that you fell in love with creating art, especially your paper mache sculptures. I really just want to know. Was there a special turning point for you? Did you have a mentor? Did you think about it being an artist when you were young? How did that happen for you?
So there's actually two stories. So
Okay.
the first one, I started doing art when I was in high school. Coming from a African family, they're very strict about academics in school. So
Mm-hmm.
my parents would always be getting on me about like, why aren't you reading? Take out a book, go and read. And it's like I like really hated it. Like as an artist, I work when I'm ready. So the
Mm-hmm.
more that I'm being told that I need to go and do it, the less likely I was going to do it. So I would sit in the dining room with my textbooks open, and then I started getting computer paper, and I started like to draw. I mean, I never imagined I could actually become an artist. And then I took art. They have what you call O levels and A levels, which are like high school,
Mm-hmm.
like finishing off my high school. So I took art all the way through. The weird thing is I signed up for art because I just thought it'd be cool to just sit and talk to my friends while I drew. Like it wasn't even like a really, it wasn't like I thought it was going to be my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wanted to be a chef when I was younger.
Really?
Like I really wanted to be a chef, and I did really well with food science, and I'd gotten the trophy at school, but then we had an exam. Um, and the exam, I had studied so hard, but then I got
Mm-hmm.
a C and I was so devastated. So I didn't cook for like a year. I just kind of avoided it. But it makes me think of how sometimes God has to do kind of a big thing, because if I just said, "Oh, I'm just going to keep cooking because this is but I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
there are other things, just like with my son. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, try this new thing. He's like,
Right.
no, I don't like it. It's like, you're six.
Right. Right.
There are other things. But anyway, so then I went to college. I went to Lander University in Greenwood, South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. I got a bachelor's degree in visual arts and a master's degree in art education. So I became an art teacher.
Okay.
I avoided 3D work for a long time. So I was working in Spartanburg, South Carolina for 7 years. Then when I met my husband, got married, and I got a
Mm-hmm.
job at Rock Hill High School,
Mm-hmm.
where I was supposed to teach sculpture. And I was so nervous about the idea of
Really?
teaching sculpture because I was like, I'm so bad at sculpture. I'm not good at it. But one of the things that I learned is sometimes we say we're bad at a thing, but then you think about, like, I
Mm.
had never really put in time into even
Right.
learning how to do it. So
Right.
if you're someone, I tell my students this all the time because I'm also an art teacher. If you spend all day and all night drawing in pencil, you're going to be very good at drawing in pencil. But if
Mm-hmm.
I show up with like some paint and I say, hey, why don't you paint? You're going to say, oh, I'm not really good at paint. No, you just need to practice. You just need to put in the time. So
That's so
I
true.
wanted to make paper mache people for this class. And I have this thing whenever I teach a new course, I want to like practice all the projects so that when the students get the project, I've already
Mm-hmm.
figured out all the kinks, and I'm
Right.
able to like help them to successfully complete it. So I started this little village of really, really old ladies because they were really old because it's easier because when things are not like
Portion it or
places, yeah,
something. Yes. Different.
it's
Yes.
just like it's in there somewhere. So as I got, and I actually have some, and so as I got
Yay.
um better and better at making them, they became younger and they became like
Mm,
more attitude and like
right.
because it took a lot. And then so recently I started actually, so this is basically about the size of most of them.
Okay. And
And
what height is that? What height are they?
this might
Okay.
be like maybe like 24 inches
Okay.
tall, like
All right.
pretty. So and then this is another one. I don't know if you can see, like this is,
Oh
and I also
yeah.
started
That's so
bathing
cool.
ones in bathing suits and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
this was the initial size. It's easier to actually work big than it is to
Yes.
work small.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
That's so
know a lot of
true.
people were like, oh, could you make a small one? So for a while, I just was like, this is kind of, they just kind of come out the size they come. So as I continued practicing, so recently I launched the minis. So
So
the minis,
cute.
thank you. So actually they're harder to make, but I'm realizing like this one actually just sold. Um, and I'm realizing the lady had showed me where she was going to display it. And I was like, oh, yeah, everyone doesn't need a big one because if you've got like a
Mm-hmm.
coffee table or
Yes,
somewhere,
so
and it does
true.
not need to be like a giant
Yes.
centerpiece. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about the mini collection
Nice. I
of
love that.
ladies, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
all different sizes.
Mm-hmm. They're so cool.
So
I love them.
thank you.
I fell in love with them. When I saw them, I was like, this is beautiful work. And
Thank
just
you.
remind me of my plus size dolls, with their attitude and their the beauty that they have. And so I'm excited about that. So let me ask you a question. How do you decide on like the outfits and the poses and the things that bring their individuality to life? How do you decide on that?
Um, I feel like sometimes I'm inspired by just women that I see
Mm,
out and about. For example, I remember one time I saw, I don't know, I can't remember where I was. I saw someone and they were like, they had freckles, kind of like red hair, and they were like black person with freckles and red hair. And I was like, I've never done a lady with freckles and red hair. And then I also have the ones that are albino. Then I have the ones
okay.
that are
Yes.
jet black. So I feel
Hmm.
like it's just trying to like represent all the skin tones
Yeah.
and like kind of, and for me, I feel like my favorite ones are actually the jet black one
Hmm.
as well as the like I like the albino one as well. And then
Hmm.
I just like all the skin
It's
tones.
like, oh,
Like I just think there's just something beautiful because as I think as black people are we just our skin tones are just so diverse. Like there's
hmm.
not just like one
Right, right. One shade or like,
shade
yeah,
with
exactly.
slight changes. I mean, this is like an entire spectrum
Yes,
of
it's so true. And each one of those shades has these different undertones. So it doesn't matter, you could be somebody your same complexion, but it looks different because your undertone is like more red or more yellow or things like that. So yeah, I definitely
and I
understand
also
that.
feel like working with young people,
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes like my favorite thing, even when I do paintings and portraits, I love to just paint people just
Mm-hmm.
naturally because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, like nowadays, you see a lot of girls are having like weaves and the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lashes, and it's like you're covering your beauty. They're
They don't
so
see that.
beautiful underneath all that. I mean, I feel I'm not opposed to like getting
Right.
extensions or
Yes,
something
I
like
get
that.
that. Right. I
But
understand
I'm
what you're
saying,
saying.
like, when you put so much to the point that we can't see you anymore, these girls are like beautiful. So it's like,
Yeah.
I just love in my work to show that, like, that's what the work is all about. Even though
Mm-hmm.
the sculptures don't have faces, I've done ones with faces before, but I feel like the ones without faces tend to be much more popular because people can kind of like identify with them and they're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of fit into the decor a lot better.
Right. Okay.
But like I said, when I've done like paintings of people, I always
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not looking for someone who had like the lace front and the
The
lashes. Like
right.
it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
just
more
natural
natural
beauty.
of who they are, right? I definitely understand that. It's so funny. I was going to ask you about the faces. Why didn't you paint faces on there?
Yeah,
Great.
and also I don't know. So when I was little, I also lived in the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived in Santo Domingo, and they also like in the Caribbean. Sometimes they'll have like a lot of like faceless dolls, and
Oh, okay.
for like part of that is also like representing just the mixture of all the
Mm-hmm.
like historically where the backgrounds of the people. So basically, just representing everybody.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there've been times when I've made a sculpture, I've added a face, and then I'm like, oh, I should have just not had a face on. I shouldn't have had a face. I feel like it's all in their gestures. Like, and then this is another one. So I only have like so far 2 guys. This is the other one that's sold, and it's
Okay.
also a mini. I don't
Nice.
usually do guys.
Guys,
But
right.
some of
Okay,
the
that's
guys
really
have been
nice.
complaining because I started a line of sweatshirts and they were like, do you have anything with guys on them? I began
That's
to
cool.
kind of make a few here. We can have a couple of guys in
Right, we
there,
can. Yeah, we could do that. We could
just
do
a
that.
few.
This question. So, how is creating like your sculptures? How has that influenced your own personal, I don't know, journey, and to how you feel about yourself as a woman and as an artist?
I feel like I just feel like I've come into like just being who I want to be. I feel like there was a time when I like people like a certain version of you, like when you're still like not sure of yourself, and they try to direct, hey, you need to be doing this. This is a little bit too much. You don't need to be doing that. And I felt a lot of that growing up, like in Zimbabwean culture. Sometimes I feel like with girls, there's a tendency of like trying to like not like you're not supposed to just be so out there
Out
and just
there, right?
speaking and like calm down and fall back. And I just feel like I got to a point where I just wanted to be my authentic self. I wanted to create work. Like I love the fact that people want to spend money on something that I just came up with out of my head. And that's like very empowering, especially
Yeah.
after for so long you're made to feel like be
Mm.
quiet. Nobody cares about what you've got to say, but these are the things that I have to say, or these are the ideas that I'm coming up with.
I totally understand that. Especially, I think in a space when you where you are an artist, not only do you have to show your voice through your creativity, but you also have to start to have a voice. Because if you want to
Yes.
do a show, you have to be able to speak for yourself. If you want to, be able to talk about your art, you have to have a voice to be able to do those things. And also being an entrepreneur, we're going to talk about that because I think a lot of times artists think of themselves as an artist, like any creative, right?
Yes.
Was that a hard shift for you to become like to do the art, but then also realize, well, now I'm a real entrepreneur because I'm selling these things and I have to think about how do I market, how do I do these things for myself and be that that all around person, what I mean, in your business.
So it's actually so there was something big that happened in my life that kind of created that shift. So back in 2022, I applied to a program they have here in Charlotte. I think they used to have it in Atlanta at one point. It's called Art Pop Street Gallery,
Oh, okay,
where
okay.
they choose 20 artists, one high school senior in there, where they
Mm.
put your artwork on billboards and digital
Oh,
displays all
nice.
throughout the city. And it just gave me so much exposure. They had our work up in Times Square. And it just was like, it made me realize that, hey, if people see the power of just being seen, because I was always like, oh, I don't care about being seen. I'm just going to say to myself, but I feel like it's a different kind of seeing the work, hearing what I have to say.
Yes.
And so and then I also took a business class because they offered us business classes in there as well. And I remember taking a business class where this guy came and we had this whole day workshop, and he said, number one, nobody is coming. So you need to
Wow.
get out there and go and do what
Mm.
you need to do to get this work out there. And then the other thing I took from it was people cannot want a thing that they don't know about. So I struggled, like, especially when I first started, like, my Instagram,
Right.
especially growing up. Like, sometimes I just remember always being told, like, oh, just you're posting too much, take it down, even though I really wasn't. And do you know what I'm saying? So then it
Yes.
was very hard for me
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, I just made a thing. I'm going to post it and share it because it is kind of
Yes.
scary.
It is scary. Yes, I know. I do this all the time.
But I'm saying I had to get over it. So then I had to
Yes.
start coaching myself and say, Walmart doesn't feel shy that they had an ad before the news, in the middle of the news, and at the end of the news. So this is a business. This is not just me going, oh, look, I'm just, like a selfie or something.
Right.
It's really my business. And
Mm-hmm.
I also found that not to put too much into like if somebody is liking things or not, because I feel like I've noticed that sometimes people have like a little bit of a laziness where I'll notice if I post like one sculpture, it's just like, oh, okay. But then when I have 5, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But yeah, you can't have 5 without having 1. You have to do them individually.
That's true.
You understand? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, it's so true.
Not to really put, not to, in other words, like just not to put too much into, how the responses are. Or there have been times I post something and it doesn't really get a whole lot of feedback, but then I send it off to a competition and it wins. Just feel like it's just like realizing that I just have to keep going, yes, and just believing in what I'm working on.
Well, I mean, I think that is important as an artist in general, not just entrepreneur. You have to believe in what you're working on.
Not be worried about, oh my gosh, nobody liked
somebody's gonna like it. Right.
I've seen artists like that where you can tell they're like, oh, nobody liked anything that I did. So, and then I'm like, so you're not doing work anymore? Because the weird thing about people is like, you can share a thing and they're not interested one bit. And then you could say, oh, I did a competition and I won $1,000. And now the same piece of work, everybody's like, wow, that's awesome. Congratulations.
They weren't there when you did the first doll,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think that's really important to understand. Even a lot of the time, and I always say this to my husband, like, whenever you see someone stepping out to do something bold, at first you notice everyone's like, I don't know, what is she trying to do all that? She needs to stop. But then when they become successful, they're like, wow.
It's
and
so
I think that happens a lot with art.
Yes.
If someone says, I want to be an artist, I want to be a singer, I want to act. I mean, at first everyone's like, that, you mean like a hobby?
Like a hobby? How you gonna make money with that? Like, you really need a real job, Like, and it is a real job because you're spending your time and your craft building that up. You know what I mean? That's a job in itself, So I totally understand that. It's funny. It makes me think back when we did the dolls. Like, everybody said the same thing. Like, who wants? Like, literally, the word that they used obviously was fat. They used a fat doll. That's what they said back in 2000. Who wants a fat doll? That's what they said to us. And I think for me, it just, I don't know, it kind of struck something in me because I think I want to bring back to your point where you were talking earlier about just seeing yourself as you and not putting all this other stuff on, you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes you even lose sight of who you are when you do that and you start not to like who you are. And we had so many people and we thought we had a lot of plus size women who would be happy to see a plus size doll, but that was not the case. They said they were happy, but they really didn't want to see it in real life, to see who they were, and that was one of the things we really tried to have those conversations with people at the end of the day about them loving who you are, where you're at, loving what it is that you do, loving the things that you have passion for, because, it's part of you. It's part of being authentic to yourself. And I think that a lot of people just don't, I don't know. Sometimes they don't.
They're like more impressed with the superficial things than actually like the natural. Like, to me, I don't like, I feel like at least like one thing I love is like seeing like women age gracefully. There's nothing wrong with aging. And I feel like there's so much that's pressure put on women. And so it's just like, so we're not allowed to get old. Like sometimes, and I feel like sometimes our bodies are telling stories. Like when I had my son, the body changed.
Yes.
It's not going to be the same.
Right.
There's no way we can just do everything. And I just feel like there's so much pressure that's put on women. But I also think that probably since 2000 is what you were saying, I think there've been a lot more developments because
definitely, yes, it definitely has been a lot more development, and I think that's one of the things that really struck me about your dolls is because the size that they are joyous in their presentation of who they are. And
not apologizing, not trying to shy away, not trying to hide their body.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what really struck me.
I feel like the interesting thing is I feel like my sculptures, a lot of the time people like the bigger ones. Like they actually, that's what stands out and like, oh man, that's so cool because they just have like a presence. And I also feel like I wanted them to like inspire women. Like sometimes I have one that's doing the splits.
Yes, I saw that one. I love that one. I love that one. And your hands are up like this. That's so beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. That was actually one that got juried into. Have you seen the Fiber Now publication?
I think I did see that one. Yes.
Yes. So Fiber Now is a publication that comes out quarterly. So that one there's going to be some images, I guess, of that one in their fall issue coming up. But just the idea of like man, if she can do it, so can I. Like they
Right.
don't look uncomfortable
Yeah.
because people make it seem like, oh, you have to be super small or super tiny to be able to do that. Or I have another one, it's called arabesque, where her leg is
Mm,
cranked up and she's like a ballerina, but she's still
mm.
thick.
I really do. I really do love that. So
Thank you.
when you're making the sculptures, do you start out with one idea and then something else shows up for you when you finally look at it and you're like, "Huh, that's not what I was going for, but that's kind of how she created herself." Yeah, have you
I
found
just
that
go
to be
for it.
fun? Really? You do?
Usually, most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, I usually just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have an idea in my mind to be like, oh, I want to create a lady with this pose or that
Right,
pose.
right.
Yeah, the
They
biggest
tell you
thing
who
is I
they
need
want.
them to be stable. Saying like they can't be like
Yes.
leaning and falling over because that was one
Mm-hmm.
of the things I didn't want a sculpture that could not stand on its own.
Mm-hmm. No, I
And it's
definitely
interesting because
understand
I
that.
feel like there were sculptures, but then I suddenly found myself among the doll artists too. And I mean, why not? Like that's what because
Yes.
I feel like I don't know. Sometimes I think with being an artist, there's like a snobbery that people go, oh, this is not done and you need to do it like this. But I'm just going
Right.
to do what I want to do at the end of the day. I remember someone one time asking and saying, hey, I noticed you do sweaters. So, like, are you trying to do fine art at the gallery or are you trying to do sweaters? But I'm just like, you know, the gallery shops have
All kinds of things.
sweaters with people's art on them. So
Yes.
maybe we need to like normalize us as the artists making the money off of our own merchandise and not having it to where you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Then you get an opportunity at a big museum and now they're making
Mm-hmm.
t-shirts and sweaters with your work on it. I don't know. I've always been just a person that's just like, I don't know. I'll do sweaters. I mean, if I end up in H&M, then I'm in H&M. If I end up at the
Long
High
as
Museum, then I
as long as my artwork is there, right? As
yeah,
long as my art is
exactly.
there, right? I get that. Because I was going to ask you that, like, do you see them as art dolls yourself when you do them, or have they become more art dolls because of people have seen them?
Because I put a lot in the gallery scene, they
Mm-hmm.
see them as sculptures, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the playfulness of them is like dolls. And I also feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's interesting because when I see like women and they like look at them, they just like stop and they smile and they're like, hmm. And it makes me think that as women, that's another thing. It's like we were basically like forced into like, oh, when you get to this age, you're too old to be dealing with dolls and you need to put those down. So I feel like,
No, that's a no-no.
yeah, I mean, but I feel like there's a point when you're in like middle school. Because I remember there was a
Mm-hmm.
point where I was still playing with dolls and I was like in sixth grade, but I would be like really secretive about it because I didn't want anybody to know that I was still playing with them. And then eventually I stopped. But I'm just saying, seeing women be so excited about to have this in their home,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or to
Yeah.
have an arrangement of them in their
Yes.
homes, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you realize that we still love these things.
Yes, it just brings you back to the things that made
Mm-hmm.
you feel good, when you were little, and that it's still okay to have that desire to want to, play and have imagination. That's really important. And I think that's why dolls are just so powerful because it does bring that part of yourself back to life that a lot of us, really truly need.
And just
Yeah.
even seeing like, and especially now, like I said, with a lot of young girls as well, because a lot of young girls nowadays, they're like, I feel like when I was little, everybody was basically the same size, but a lot of our young girls now are ranging in size as well.
Yes.
So we need to be
Yes.
appreciating that as well.
So what impact do you really want these dolls to have on young girls? I mean, who don't really see themselves as represented in dolls before, or I know a lot of your dolls are women in general, like older women, but do you feel that there could be a connection in helping a young girl look at herself differently through your dolls?
I feel like it's the confidence that's in the sculptures that's really important. I said ever since I had my son, like my body just changed and it's not
Mhm.
like how it was. It's definitely didn't go back to how it was. But I did come out with the most beautiful baby. But I'm saying that's something to be proud of. That I mean, there's some women who are struggling to have children that can't even have kids. So I
Mhm.
just feel like it just seems like as women we just can't win. It just seems like there's just always so much pressure. So I just want them to be able to be like, wow, she's like heavy set and she's got some pounds. Look how confident. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that takes young people a long time to learn, that
Yes.
confidence is about how you feel about yourself. Because the minute you're very confident, everybody just gravitates towards you. But when you're
Yes.
not secure, or if you don't like yourself, I
Hmm.
don't know, people can feel that.
Yes, so true. So, but also to piggyback on that, it takes women, older women, still many years to like themselves. Trust me.
Yeah, I
You
mean, I
know?
feel like it took
Yeah.
me a long time to just come into who I wanted to be, like, and
Hmm.
not be like, not feel pressure, like, because sometimes
Yes.
I feel like people try to, especially, I mean, even with being African, sometimes there's like certain cultures and pressures people try to put on you. And I feel like I had to get to a really healed stage in my life where it's like, I don't feel bad. If I'm not comfortable, I'm
Right.
not doing it.
Right.
If I'm not interested, I'm not coming. Like, I just had to just get, and there's so much power when you get to that point and say, this is my body.
Right.
I don't care what you think about it.
Right.
At the end of
Yeah.
the day, even if you don't like it, it doesn't affect my bank account.
Right.
Like, it's just,
That's true. Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I just feel like it's sad. Like, even though we have so much nowadays, people just are not as happy or as feeling as confident because they're being given this image of themselves. Like, women are getting all this surgery,
Hmm.
all these fillers, all these things. And it's like, you could still be beautiful and you could be 70 and you would just having aged gracefully, and the
So true.
whatever lines, whatever's there.
There's a
Look, I
reason for
mean,
those lines, there's a reason for all of that. And understanding that that also brings wisdom and it brings a life. You have lived a life
exactly.
and nothing is going to stay the same ever. Yeah, you do have to get to a place where you accept yourself as who you are and like that person. And I know a lot of times people talk about self-love, and I think that's just important. I mean, I work a lot with affirmations and cards and things for women, but what about self-like? There's people who don't even like who they are in general, and you have to be able to be around other people who like themselves and love themselves and feed off of that, because I think that is really, really important.
And I also think it's important to be careful, because sometimes when people don't like themselves, they want to tear down
Mm-hmm.
other people who
Mm-hmm.
are more comfortable with themselves.
So true.
So I feel like it's really important to, stand firm and be like, okay, this is who I am. Because I'll give you an example. I remember I used to like to, like, well, I still do, like eating like a lot of different things. And then I remember I'd always be around people who'd be like, I don't know. But then one day as I grew older, I was like, you can tell that these folks have not eaten a whole lot of different things.
Right,
Like,
right,
so if I was just going with the masses and saying, oh, I'll just, follow along because they were like, this is weird. But you
right.
have to look at whatever that person's life experiences are. So
True.
I think it's important not to just feed into the opinions of other people. Like, even
Right.
sometimes, even if I make a thing and I share it with someone and they're not as, it's fine if you don't like it. But I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
if I believe in it and I continue to put, and do you know what it
Right.
made me think of? It made me think of the time when that sculpture popped up in New York. And I just thought it was the coolest
Oh, of the of
thing.
the of the girl that was just there on
Yes.
Times Square. Yes.
And then at first,
Yes.
everybody was mad. I was like, what are you guys mad about? Because it's like, if the lady had been all decked out, there would have been an issue. If she's looking plain, there would have been an issue. We, especially as Black women, we wanted to be represented as just as we are. And that's exactly what that was. But I
Right.
feel like initially, everyone just did like what you said when you did your dolls in 2000.
Yeah.
And I was confused.
Yeah. Yeah. We were
And then after,
confused
when they
too.
started seeing that it was super popular, then everybody just suddenly, oh, we're taking pictures with it. Da, 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 da. But I'm saying, I felt like that was very powerful, that she was
Yes.
just an everyday
Right. Exactly. Just an
young.
everyday person. But I think that's why art is important, because of the messages that it states, whether it's a message of a statue standing in Times Square saying this is just who I am, you know what I mean? Or your beautiful, beautiful women of color dolls, this is who I am. And I think that without artists out there, you don't get an opportunity to even question those, to have those questions. So I think your art is beautiful. I think it says a lot about empowerment. It says a lot about owning who you are and embracing who you are. And that was the first thing that I took away from that. I mean, second thing is, yeah, I'm a plus size woman, and I love who I am. I didn't start out that way either, you know what I'm saying? But it is who I am. And I couldn't spend my time living in that space of like, oh, this is what I look like now. Okay, yeah, so that's cool. This is what I look like now.
So I'm
Yes.
just saying, just not to put yourself down so much, because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we're our own worst critics.
Yeah, we definitely are. We definitely are. And I mean, and that follows through loving yourself. It follows through like what it is that you want to do in life. You know what I'm saying? What it is that you create. You know, there's just a line of that follows you, you know, throughout your life. So I think you have to find those ways and find those little moments when you really look at yourself and say, well, I'm really proud of myself, that I'm really, that I've accomplished this, that I've accomplished that. You know, I think a lot of times, like you said, women, we take on so many roles, and I think we tend to lose ourselves in all of those roles. And I think that that definitely plays into us not liking what we see, because it takes we don't look at
Sometimes we
ourselves
don't have
anymore.
time,
We don't,
because
right. We don't look at ourselves no more. We don't have time, you
I will
know?
say also, as a mom and a full-time teacher, and I'm as a wife, like it's a lot. Like I used to exercise every single day. I
Mm-hmm.
used to do like 3 or 4 miles daily, and I was very much in shape. But then when I started my art business, I get up early, I make my sculptures.
Right.
Like something has to just there though there has to be something, and that something is exercising. I
Mm-hmm.
can't there's no way that I can do all those things and then
Right.
still be exercising like a crazy and getting it done. But I feel like I really would like for, to leave behind something that my son can say, look, this is the
Yes.
collection of dolls that my mom made.
You want to leave a legacy, that you made a difference, you know, in creating the things that you do. So I totally understand that. So, you know, you were saying that you get up in the morning. So what is your routine? So you get up in the morning and you make a doll. I mean, how does that work?
So I don't know. I feel like I started realizing that if I didn't make time for my art, it was just
Mm,
not going to happen.
mm,
Because like I'm like my husband and I are super traditional for the most part. So I'm like cooking and I'm doing
mhm.
different things around the house. I mean, he's military, so he does a lot of cleaning. But I just was realizing every time they were up, I was like, I was busy and I could never get anything done. So I
Mhm.
started getting up. So I think at first I started getting up at 5. And then after that, I started getting up at 4, at 3. I did
Wow.
2, but then when 2 got me kind of sleepy later. So
Mhm.
for the most part, every single day, whether it's a
Wow.
weekend, a holiday, I get up around 3 o'clock in the morning to do my art. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a sculpture or doll. Right now, I'm
Mhm.
working on some sculptures because the minute something sells, I have to replace it,
Okay.
especially
Okay.
with me having a full-time job. So, like this
Right.
one that I was saying, I just sold, and this little guy right here,
Mhm.
because I'm shipping them out tomorrow. I
Okay.
have to make sure that they are immediately replaced, so
Okay.
that my numbers always stay constant. So I feel like
Mhm.
I just have to be so proactive about it, because I want my artistic presence to be as if I'm a full-time artist. At any
Okay.
time when there's an event, if someone calls me, like right now, Blumenthal, which is like the Broadway company,
Mhm.
Bloom Studios has 5 of my sculptures. Their gift shop where they're doing this life-size Monopoly situation.
Oh,
Like,
that's cool.
so I just never want a situation where a big opportunity hits
And you're
and I'm
not
like,
and you're
I
not
don't have
ready.
any sculptures, or I'm a mom of a 6-year-old, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there is not an excuse that I need to have. So the work just has to be there.
Wow.
So I don't
Wow.
know. Like I feel like I've just made a commitment to it, and it's just so important for
Mhm.
me to do
Yeah.
that. Even if I just have them in different stages,
Right.
even if I
But
have
you're
like,
always working on them.
yes,
Yes, always
always.
working to produce
And
them.
I also switch it up. Like I said, sometimes like I'll decide to work on a collage. That's what keeps me in production all the time. Is
Mhm.
that when I get tired of making a doll, I'll be like, oh, let me do a collage. Let me do a cyanotype. Let me do a paint. So it really
Right.
is just a rotation of these different things that I'm doing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because you do work in different areas of the art media. So yeah, definitely understand that. It's so interesting to hear you say that though. Like you're up at 3 o'clock and this is what you do and this is your process. And then yes, you do have a young child and you are married and you do have a husband. You know, but the fact that you stated that you realized you had to make it a priority. And that is, and I think that that goes without saying when it comes to building a business, regardless, of whether you are building it in the art world or, say in the tech world. It doesn't really matter. It's about the commitment. And I think it's important too that you want to leave a legacy. It's not, there's something else besides that happening. Yes, you want to be prepared for a show, you want to do all of those things, but you also want to leave a legacy for your son to know that he can still do what it is that his heart desires to do. And I think that's really so important. I
And
think
I
that's
also
really
feel
so
like there's something about living a lifestyle where you're focused and you have goals.
important.
Like living that goal-based lifestyle really helps you to stay like grounded and not
Hmm.
distracted,
Hmm. Hmm.
because it's like every day I wake up, it's like, what do I need to work on today? What needs to be finished? And it's like I started realizing I just have to do a little bit of something. I'm not going to finish it all. Like this morning, I
Right.
started a sculpture, I put it together, and I'm going to put it aside. I may
Hmm.
begin paper mache tomorrow. It may be next month. It may be 2 months from now. I
Right.
may begin another one. Like it's just however it happens.
Hmm.
I have like all these projects that are like in the halfway point
Hmm.
where I can just pick something up and finish it. But one of my biggest rules is I never rush. Like let's say if there's an opportunity that I have to submit for it by the end of this week, it needs to be something that's already done. I don't
Hmm.
like to ever feel like, oh my gosh, I have to finish this thing, because I
Right.
want to make sure like the quality is right.
Right, right. And it's a different energy too. It's a different energy, I think, when you do that. So it may not even turn out the way you wanted it to turn out because you are rushing. You don't have time to spend on crafting it for yourself. So
I feel like also when I make them, I'm not making them with the intent to sell them. Because I've had
mm,
sometimes had kids be like, "Oh, are you is it something you're trying to sell?" I said, anytime, every time I make something, the goal is not to sell. The
mm-hmm,
goal is to create whatever
mm,
it is that I'm feeling that I want to create in that moment. Now, if
mm-hmm,
somebody wants to buy it, I'm not
mm-hmm.
going to tell them they can't buy it, but it's never that's never
Right. It's
the
never
intent.
the right. It's never the driving goal. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's never the
And
driving
so,
goal.
for
Yeah.
example, I feel like, and I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, well, are you going to quit teaching and go full time now that you're doing all this?" And I was like, "No, I feel like my teaching is like my favorite thing, like to be able to work
Mm-hmm.
with like my students." So, for example, this coming school year, I'm going to be teaching contemporary craft and design. I've had to like it, I feel like it's in the uncomfortable spaces is when I expand. So the last time the dolls happened when I
Yes.
was teaching a sculpture class.
Mm-hmm.
Now with contemporary art and design, I'm creating a whole nother set of lessons, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
competitive, by the way. So those lessons, they have to be such that if there's a
Funny.
couple of students that nail that, it needs to go out to some competition somewhere and be like, so you know
That
what
is
I'm saying? It
cool.
matters
Yes.
what it is. You can't just be
Right.
like, oh, here's some yarn and just do whatever. No, there has to
Right.
be some serious planning behind it. But I feel like that work that I do with those kids, it makes
Mm,
me have to stretch myself and grow, because I feel like I'm the most expensive resource they have in that room. And
mm,
so I can't just like, there's a lot of art teachers that just go, oh, here's some colors, just draw. No, you have to really
mm-hmm. Yeah.
guide them
Guide
and
them.
help
Yeah.
them.
Yes. You're so true. Because because I think that's where you allow them to find out a little bit more about who they are.
And so
You
also,
know what
I
I mean?
think with my students, sometimes I divvy things up, because sometimes I'll show them a finished project, like, I can't do that. And I'm like, no, the first thing you're going to do is I've created a module. The module has about 8 activities. Every time you finish an activity, you submit that item. And they are
Mm.
not realizing that they're actually going through an entire process. And by the
Yes.
time it's done, they've got something better than the example that I showed them in the
True.
first place.
True. And not even that, you're showing them the process of
Hmm.
things that they could use for other things in their lives. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? So I totally get that. So what else are you working on? I know you said you're doing the other thing for your students. What other kind of mediums are you planning on working on in the future, or you just want to stay with the ones that you have?
Mm-mm. There's no, like, I feel like being an artist is like a shopping spree with no limit. So like right now, because of that class, I'm looking into quilling, and then I'm looking
Oh,
into
nice.
I'm working on some quilted houses because I feel
Oh,
like there's a
nice.
simplicity in the shapes that my kids would probably be able to
Mm-hmm.
easily, you know,
Right.
everybody can cut a rectangle and just put
Right.
something together. You just make it simple, but it's still got an advanced
Mm-hmm. Right.
something about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also I used to do a lot of batik, so I'm getting ready. I just got my little materials to begin doing batik because I think for that course I'll probably do that.
Mm-hmm.
And also encaustic. I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, the minute there's a new course, you have to show up ready because those kids will like you'll be stressed out if you do not plan accordingly. Seriously. Do you know what I'm saying? You need to plan accordingly. I'm talking about high school, and you're
Yes.
up there
Oh,
going, "Oh,
yes.
well, everybody's done." Like my kids sometimes they're like, "Oh my gosh, Miss Vincent, we just got done. It just seemed like we keep." I said, "Listen, as long as there's school days left, I still have projects. So you
Yes.
might as well not hurt. You might as well not rush and take your time because anytime you're in here, you're gonna be working."
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful. Well, I'm just so glad to have had you on the show. I'm so
Thank
glad you
you.
shared your journey and your beautiful dolls. And I love the fact that you are really helping to empower these young minds out there. You know what I mean? With things that are not just creative, but things that are going to really, once they learn them, they're really going to be so useful in their life. I'm telling you,
Thank you.
they truly are because you have to have some type of structure in order to get things happening in your own life. And I think that you bring that to them. So I want to say thank you for doing that for them as well as and being a teacher, you know.
Thank
So.
you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you even taking time out of your day to ask me questions about my work and actually share my work with your people that follow you and your
Well,
podcast.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. But you have beautiful work, and I really, my goal, as always, with the Dollpreneur, I had a show previous to this in the doll world was the same thing: is to be able to show people, the creators and the creatives in the community, because I just don't think they get enough attention, enough praise for the work that they do, and so I will always make sure that that's what I do. And I just found your work to be fascinating, and I just love it. So I'm just thankful that you said yes to being on the podcast. I
How did
appreciate
you
that.
find my work?
On Instagram,
Oh,
dolls.
really?
I'll be looking for dolls or things like that.
Oh,
And I don't
okay.
even know if I said dolls. I was just looking. I do creators or doll makers or artists and things like that. And it came up and I just fell in love with them. I just thought they were so cool and powerful
Because sometimes I
and
do
joyful.
Instagram ads, and then I
Hmm.
found that to be really helpful to reach like
Yeah.
a broader audience.
Yeah, I did that. I don't think I was just scrolling through creators or something like that, and it came up, and I looked at them, and they just, like I said, they touched me because one, I'm a plus size woman, and other, I did a plus size doll, so I want people to just love who they are, no matter what they weigh. That's my thing. I mean, I want that to be something that's powerful for them, and so when I saw your work, I was like, I gotta have her on the show. So I'm just thankful that you say yes. So before we wrap up, can you just let people know how they can reach out to you and see your amazing work?
I would say the best place to find me is on Instagram. My Instagram is most up to date. I do have a website, but I'm not really the best at keeping it up to date. I'm trying to stock up my Etsy store, and my Etsy store is found under the link below the bio of my Instagram. But that's definitely one of my struggles is
Mm, mm.
the administrative side of the
Yes.
business between the making of the work and then putting things into the online store. But I'm really trying to do it, especially before I go back to
Hmm.
the new school year.
Okay.
So and I'm also on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok, and it's
Well,
always my name, Tina G Vincent.
Tina G Vincent. Okay, on Instagram, TikTok,
Mhm.
and Facebook is all under Tina G Vincent.
Yep. Or you can
Okay.
just Google me, and then I should even Tina Vincent dolls. It will
Okay.
definitely come up.
Okay. All right. Cool. Tina Vincent dolls or either Tina G Vincent. Okay,
Yes.
on the Instagram. Okay, beautiful. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your beautiful dolls, and your story, and your love for teaching, which I appreciate that so much. And so I just want to say thank you again for
Thank
being on
you.
the Dollpreneur podcast. Thank you, Tina. Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
so welcome, love.